Tell us about the Convention of States.
Yeah, it's really it's an Article 5 of the Constitution provides two ways to amend the Constitution. One is the way it's been amended for 27 times. And there have been 27 amendments to the Constitution, for those who don't know, but that's Congress proposes an amendment. It's sent to the states, and 3/4 of the state legislatures have to ratify. That's how we get constitutional amendments. But there's a second method that has yet heretofore been used. It has been attempted, I think, 300 or 400 times, but never has it gotten to the point where the states, which is the second provision, the state legislatures can pass resolutions calling for a convention of states to meet and propose amendments to the Constitution. And that convention is limited by the scope of the resolution that's passed. So, for example, the states could pass a resolution saying we want to debate amendments on term limits of Congress. So if 34 states, you need 2/3 of the states, just like you need 2/3 of the Congress to propose an amendment, you need 2/3 of the state legislatures. The governor's not involved. It's just the legislatures. And the reason was the founders wanted the states to be powerful. They wanted to be the ultimate check on Washington, D.C. Yeah. And so they put this provision in. It was actually one of the last provisions put into the Constitution. They put this in as another check. They already had the Senate, but they thought, well, just in case, we're going to put this in here to make sure that the states can still check the federal government if the federal government gets out of control. It's a high bar. It's hard to do. It's the hardest thing to do in the country is to amend the Constitution, as well it should be. And therefore, if you look at the constitutional amendments that have passed so far, they've all been overwhelmingly popular, with the exception of not reconciliation. I've got reconciliation on my mind. After after the Civil War. So Reconstruction. I'm thinking I got reconciliation on my brain from the One Big Beautiful Bill over the past year. Okay. So that's what's in my mind. But yeah, Reconstruction, not reconciliation. Reconstruction. And those amendments were passed when the Republicans had appointed Republicans sitting in the southern seats. Mm-hmm. So they had, in a sense, control of the South. The Democrats weren't. We had Republican senators from Mississippi and Alabama and all that. That's when those amendments were proposed, and they controlled the legislatures also. So it was somewhat of a bum's rush to get those through, but such as the spoils of war, right? Right. So with the exception of those, every other constitutional amendment had overwhelming popularity in the United States. And so it would be here. So in order to have the legislatures come together and propose amendments, there'd have to be a pretty broad consensus as to what those amendments would be to get a convention called and to then propose amendments and have those amendments be voted on. So here's how the process would work. 34 states. And what I'm working on currently is a proposal that allows for 3 types of amendments to be proposed. One is to limit the terms of federal office holders. It's very broadly written, so it could mean Congress, it could mean executive branch employees.
Judges.
It could be judges, wow. Right? So it's a broadly written thing and to me, the most important is some of these executive branch appointments, the quote, deep state.
Yes, okay? Yes.
So that's one. Number 2 is a resolution that allows for fiscal restraints. So anything that would come into the category of a fiscal restraint on Washington, like a balanced budget amendment or a tax limitation amendment or a light on a veto or, anything that gives power to Washington, over Washington to limit spending, okay, or limit taxation would be permitted to be debated and offered as an amendment to the Constitution. And third is to limit the jurisdiction of the federal government. So it would say you can no longer legislate in the area of education.
Right.
Right. Now, in the Constitution, they do not have the right to educate in the area
Right.
of
So that's what the
legislation,
10th Amendment would handle, right?
but it doesn't.
But it does anyway.
And so you'd have to have something that's much more specific
Okay.
that directs the court to limit their jurisdiction.
Would that basically be an amendment saying the 10th Amendment's real?
No, it would be an amendment that would, I think, specifically prohibit certain federal
Okay, it would
activities.
actually list them specifically. Yeah. Okay.
But the 10th Amendment is real. I mean, one of the things that's possible is the problem with the 10th Amendment is that is who has standing to sue under the 10th Amendment. We're going to get in the weeds here, which I don't necessarily want to do. But the point is, these three things would be, to me, the best answer to what we gave away with the 17th Amendment. So it would allow the states and this to really assert themselves and do an intervention at the federal level. So far, 19 states have passed those three resolutions. We're working on several others right now, but we have to get to 34. So we got a ways to go yet.
So the resolution is like you're saying these are the topics that if those three, if we got 34, then we'd have a convention.
Every state would have
the specifics would then be
every
fleshed
state
out.
would have one vote, and everyone would come forward with their own ideas as to what kind of limitations they're going to try to put on.
Okay, so like term limits, you haven't necessarily drafted the specifics of that. It would be done at the convention.
Yeah, the folks who would be appointed by the states, they would all likely be state legislators themselves, and they would be the ones who would actually debate that. And then once that is proposed, then it's got to go back to the state legislatures, and 38 states have to ratify. And what does that mean? What that means that nothing widely conservative or widely liberal has any chance. Right? Because there's certainly many more conservative states than there are liberal states. As you know, if you look at a map of the United States in a presidential election, it's almost all red. So there's no questions that this is a great forum for Republicans and for conservatives, but it's not a slam dunk because you only need 13 states to say no. And I can rip through 13 pretty blue states, and that means you got to get a blue state like a Maryland or New Mexico or something like that to vote yes if you have any chance of winning, which is not going to be easy to do.
Hey, thanks guys for checking out the Conor Gallagher Show. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, or comment, or whatever you got to do to support it. And I appreciate that very much.